enough, and I'll blow your house in.
Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another marvelous video. This one is for all the horror fans out there. So guys, picture this. You're alone in a massive empty hotel. Snow piles up outside while the wind goes through corridors that seem to stretch forever. Does the image sound familiar to you? Well, obviously, because it's the Overlook Hotel. Now, most people remember The Shining for its big, terrifying moments. Jack Nicholson swinging an axe, creepy twins in the hallway, or the endless hedge maze. But that's not what we're going to be looking at in this video. Today, we will be taking a look at a room that does not just scare characters, it changes them. A room so infamous that it's become a myth of its own. So sit back and enjoy as we dive into the history of room 237, The Shining's other haunted mystery. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Origins in Stephen King's novel. Before it became room 237 on the big screen, the most haunted door in horror was not hiding behind that number at all. In Stephen King's original novel, the room was 217, and the evil inside it, well, let's just say it was not subtle. Danny Torrance does not stumble into room 217. He walks into it like he's being drawn there. The key is already in his pocket. He slides it into the lock, and the door opens without resistance. The bathroom is old, too elegant for how dead it feels. There's a tub with the curtain drawn, and you already know what's behind it. Danny pulls it back, and there she is, Mrs. Lorraine Massey, a bloated, purplish corpse with skin that looks like it's been soaking in water for days. Her eyes are open. She wasn't always a monster. Back when she was alive, Lorraine had a reputation at the hotel. She would often lure young bellboys into her room, using charm to hide how lonely she really was. But whatever thrill she was chasing didn't last. Eventually, the shame caught up with her. One night, full of regret, she took her own life, slitting her wrists in the bathtub. That could have been the end of her story, but it wasn't. After her death, something of her stayed behind. Guests say her presence never really left that room. Over time, she became one of the hotel's most aggressive spirits. What's left of her now is unpleasant. She's sitting upright in the water, and for a moment, everything freezes. She smiles at him. That's the part that gets under your skin. She smiles. Danny tries to run, but panic takes over. He hits the door, can't get it open, and he can't even scream. Then he hears Halloran's voice in his head telling him that they can't hurt him. It calms him for a second. Then she wraps her hands around his neck. And just like that, the rules change. This is not just a haunted hotel anymore. The ghosts can reach out. They can grab you. For Danny, this moment flips the switch. He knows the danger is real. The bruises on his neck prove it. And for the reader, it's the confirmation we've been dreading. The Overlook is not a metaphor. It is alive and it wants something. This incident with Mrs. Massey is proof that the Overlook is not just playing mind games. King doesn't use room 217 for cheap scares. He uses it to show how trauma lingers. Mrs. Massey becomes a metaphor for everything Jack Torrance is trying to suppress. His rage, his drinking, and his guilt. Like Jack, she is someone who came to the hotel broken and checked in for a temporary escape, only to become part of its permanent collection. The room, in a way, feeds off people like her and off people like Jack. Kubrick's vision from 217 to 237. When Stanley Kubrick adapted The Shining for the big screen, he didn't just change the pacing or the characters, he changed other things too. In King's novel, room 217 is the heart of the hotel's supernatural presence, but in the movie, it became room 237. A subtle change, just one digit. Very easy to miss unless you know what you're looking for. The real-life inspiration behind the Overlook Hotel is the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, an old grand structure nestled in the Rockies that Stephen King visited back in 1974. He and his wife Tabitha checked in on October 30th, right before the place was set to shut down for the winter. That night, they were the only guests in the entire building. Just them, the empty hallways, and a bar still serving drinks. King wandered the corridors, soaked in the atmosphere, and eventually ended up chatting with a bartender named Grady. That name should sound familiar. Later that night, King had a nightmare. His young son Joe was running through the hotel hallway, screaming, being chased by a fire hose. The image stuck, and it eventually morphed into one of the more unsettling moments in the novel. They stayed in room 217, and that's the room that became the center of the novel's supernatural horror, the place where Mrs. Massey makes her return from the tub. But when Kubrick began filming his version at the Timberline Lodge in Oregon, a request came in from the hotel. Timberline did have a room 217, and they were worried the movie might scare guests away. So Kubrick changed it to room 237, a number that did not exist at Timberline. Ironically, the exact opposite happened. The film turned room 217 into a legend, and now it's one of the most requested rooms in the entire lodge. At the Stanley Hotel, they embrace the legacy. Room 217 has since been renamed the Stephen King Suite, and when the 1997 TV miniseries adaptation of The Shining rolled around, King's own version, they filmed it right there at the Stanley and kept the number exactly the way he wrote it. But here's the thing, Kubrick was not exactly known for doing things just to be polite. He was famously obsessive. Every prop, every color, every frame was loaded with intention. So when he picks the number 237, people start asking questions. And as it turns out, there are a lot of possible answers. People started coming up with many theories for this change. Let's start with the most popular theory, space. The average distance from the Earth to the Moon is roughly 237,000 miles. That alone might not seem like much until you realize there's an entire conspiracy theory behind this. We'll get to that later. In King's version, the room confirms the hotel's evil. In Kubrick's version, it distorts it. Jack's descent does not start with ghosts or voices. It starts right here in room 237, when he gives in to something he knows is not real. That is the power of Kubrick's version of the room. What happens in room 237? The thing about room 237 is that we don't really know what happens inside. Not fully, not clearly. And that's exactly why it keeps us up at night. Kubrick doesn't hand us an explanation. He doesn't even try. What we get instead is a sequence of images and reactions, fragmented, dreamlike, and deeply unsettling. It's like trying to remember a nightmare that does not want to be remembered. We first see Danny go in alone. We don't see what he sees. But when he comes out, he has changed. He is mute, catatonic, and bruised. He clutches his neck like something tried to choke the life out of him. And in a way, maybe it did. The film never confirms who or what attacked him. All we are left with is a child who is too scared to speak, and a mother who's too terrified to understand what's really happening. Then there's Jack's version. He enters the room after hearing about Danny's injuries, and what he finds is beautiful at first. A naked woman steps out of the tub. She walks toward him, and he doesn't resist. He kisses her, and then he opens his eyes. She is no longer beautiful. Her skin has started to rot. Her mouth sags open. The water is still dripping from her decaying flesh as she reaches out again, and Jack stumbles backward in horror. But he doesn't tell Wendy any of this. Now, this sequence, the two encounters, has been interpreted in dozens of ways, and honestly, they all say something about what the room really is. One of the most common interpretations is that room 237 represents trauma, specifically childhood trauma. Some viewers believe Danny was abused, either by Jack or by some spirit the hotel conjured, and that his silence is a result of that unspoken horror. The film never confirms it, but the imagery suggests something deeper than just a spooky ghost scene. Then there's the theory of repressed memory, that what happens in the room mirrors the things Jack has buried. His guilt, his rage, his failure as a father and husband. The seductress turning into a corpse becomes symbolic of how Jack's fantasies are rotting from the inside. They were never real to begin with. Some people see the room as a kind of portal, a wormhole into the Overlook's past, maybe even into Jack's own past. The idea is that a ghost does not haunt room 237. It is haunted by everything. It's the hotel's memory, a place that stores things and rewinds them on a loop. That's why the room feels so self-contained. It doesn't behave like the rest of the hotel. It's selective, sentient almost. It only opens itself up to certain people, Danny and Jack, and when it does, it shows them what they're not ready to see. There's a lot of mirror symbolism happening. When Jack kisses the woman, we only see her rot through the reflection behind him. That mirror shatters the illusion. And in a story so focused on identity fracturing and mental breakdown, it hits hard. Some even describe the woman in the tub as a siren figure, a kind of witch or seductress archetype that lures men toward destruction. She doesn't attack Jack physically, but she doesn't have to. She is part of his descent. Whatever happens in the room, and it is deliberately left ambiguous, leaves a mark that does not fade. Danny never fully recovers. Jack falls deeper into madness, and we, the audience, walk away with more questions than answers. The thing about The Shining is that it doesn't rely on the usual haunted house tropes. There's no creaky old manor on a hill, no cobwebbed staircase or cursed family portrait. Instead, it is a hotel, and that changes everything. Hotels are weird places when you think about it. They're public and private at the same time. You check in, close the door, and for a night or two, it is yours. You sleep there, cry there, fight, drink, do whatever you do behind those four walls. And then you leave, just like the last guest did, and just like the next one will. That's what makes the Overlook so effective. It's a revolving door for strangers and secrets. Over the decades, it's collected stories most people never hear about: murders, suicides, affairs gone wrong, and nervous breakdowns. And when the damage is done, the staff cleans it up, puts fresh sheets on the bed, and rents it out again like nothing ever happened. In the real world, that idea is already a little unsettling. King just took it a step further. He imagined those stories staying. Kubrick picked up that thread and ran with it. He made the hotel feel endless, like a maze you could get lost in without ever realizing it. And at the center of that maze is room 237. It's just another room on just another floor. That's the terrifying part. There's nothing especially unique about it at first glance, but that's what gives it power. Because if something that horrifying can happen there, if that ghost can be waiting in that tub, then nowhere is really safe. And that is the point. Theories surrounding room 237. There are a lot of theories surrounding this room that people have come up with ever since the film was released back in 1980. Let's look back at a few that have been depicted in the documentary titled Room 237. Instead of a linear breakdown of The Shining, it stitched together voiceovers from superfans, each laying out their wildest, deepest, most obsessive theories about what Kubrick was really trying to say. The movie itself becomes a playground for decoding what they believe is Kubrick's secret message to the world, and one theory rises above the rest, not because it's the most logical, but because it's the most infamous: the idea that Stanley Kubrick helped with faking the moon landing and used The Shining to confess it. It all goes back to 2001: A Space Odyssey, released in 1968, just 1 year before Apollo 11 landed on the moon. People were stunned by how realistic it looked, and back then, nobody had seen space like that before, so the question started to form: how did Kubrick know what space looked like before anyone else really went there? That was all the fuel some folks needed. Add in the fact that Kubrick was a perfectionist, someone who controlled every detail down to the color of the carpet, and suddenly The Shining was not just a horror film, it was a coded confession. Let's look through the evidence they gave for this. First, Danny's sweater. You know, the blue knit rocket on the front with big letters spelling out Apollo 11? Danny wears it while riding his tricycle down the halls, straight into room 237. Now remember, Stephen King's original book called it room 217. Kubrick changed it to 237, and like we already saw, people associated this with the distance to the moon. Then there's the carpet pattern. Those jagged orange and red shapes, some theorists say, are similar to the Apollo 11 launch pad. Take the television, for example. There's a shot in the film where it's playing loud and clear, but it's not plugged into anything. Some say it's Kubrick hinting that the images we are watching are not real, that we're being shown a version of reality that has been manufactured. Then there's Jack's typewriter. The infamous line, typed over and over, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." Some believe that if you look closely at the first word, it almost reads like A11, as in Apollo 11. Then there's the theory about the twins. Some believe they are more than just something creepy, that they are a metaphor, specifically for NASA's Gemini missions, which came before Apollo. These were a series of test runs, some successful, others not so much, all leading up to the eventual moon landing. Another major theory, arguably the most grounded of them all, is that The Shining is really about the genocide of Native Americans. It's not a stretch. Early in the film, during the hotel tour, the manager casually mentions that the Overlook was built on an Indian burial ground. All throughout the Overlook, you'll see Native American imagery. Tapestries and wall hangings with Apache and Navajo designs line the ballroom. Even the pantry is stocked with Calumet baking powder and cans decorated with a Native American mannequin in full headdress. They are stacked deliberately, logo facing forward, like they're meant to be seen. The word calumet itself refers to a peace pipe, but in this context, some argue it represents something darker: broken treaties, empty promises, and a history of dishonesty from the white men. The blood in the elevator then becomes more than just a disturbing image. It's a release of everything this place has buried: the lives, the land, the sacrifice between the surface of a polished high-end resort. The hotel, like the country it reflects, does not just remember violence, it requires it to keep running. The ghosts and demons that are in the Overlook are not just spirits. They are guilt and repressed memory, the psychological fallout of colonization. Then there's the moment when Jack kills Halloran, one of the few characters who seems genuinely good. When his body hits the ground, it falls right onto a rug decorated with tribal patterns, which is seen as a reference to the killing of the Indians, a history of violence compressed into a single frame. Even the final shot, the vintage photo dated July 4th, 1921, gets reinterpreted. What is celebrated as Independence Day for America is, in this reading, an ironic reminder that not everyone was granted independence. For indigenous people, July 4th is not freedom, it is erasure. From this theory, the Overlook Hotel is more than just a haunted building. It's a symbol of what the settlers built, a society that looks like paradise on the surface, but only because someone else is always working behind the scenes to keep it that way. The luxury is real, but so is the exploitation underneath it. There is also a theory about the Holocaust surrounding Room 237. At first, it sounds like a stretch, but there are so many details pointed out to support this theory. For one, much of the film's soundtrack leans heavily on post-war compositions, pieces shaped by the emotional wreckage of World War II. Then there's Jack's typewriter. It's German-made. The brand is Adler, which translates to eagle in English, the same symbol used by the Nazi regime. Jack's yellow t-shirt, worn in multiple scenes, also bears what looks eerily similar to that emblem. And when you pair that with his obsessive mechanical typing, pages and pages of the same line, it begins to feel less like writer's block and more like a metaphor for bureaucratic violence. But the most compelling thread might be the number 42. It pops up throughout the film, subtly but often. There are 42 cars in the Overlook's parking lot. Danny's shirt has the number 42 on it. Halloran's rental car has a license plate that ends in 42. Wendy and Danny even watch the Summer of 42 on the hotel TV midway through the film. And if you multiply the digits in room 237, 2 times 3 times 7, you get 42. All of it points to one specific year, 1942, the year the Nazis officially put their final solution into motion. Now, whether Kubrick embedded these clues intentionally or not, it is the pattern that gets people thinking. And maybe, through Room 237, Kubrick was not pointing to just one horror, but to the way we bury them neatly until the door opens and everything comes rushing back. In the end, these theories probably reveal more about us than they do about the film. They aren't just theories, they are reflections, not of what's on the screen, but how we watch it, what we bring to it, the fears we project, the truths we want hidden, the meaning we need to be there. Maybe that's why people dig so deep. Not because the answers are really there, but because they want them to be. When a film leaves an imprint, when it lingers, audiences don't want to move on. They want to stay, to peel back the wallpaper, search the corners, and find something they missed the first. You only get to watch a movie for the first time once. So we build theories, we decode symbols, we imagine hidden messages and buried confessions, not to solve the mystery, but to create new versions of the film. Each theory becomes a way to relive it, to watch it again for the first time, even when we know exactly what's going to happen. Marvelous verdict. Well, with that, guys, we've come to the end of yet another fun video. There's something satisfying about thinking you've cracked a code, even if the code was never really there. The Shining pulls you in like that. It dares you to find meaning, to believe there's a hidden answer waiting if you just look hard enough. But whatever answer you come up with is just one version of the truth. That's what makes The Shining so haunting. It doesn't explain itself. In the end, the room you are not supposed to open is the one you cannot stop thinking about. Now, I want to know what you guys think about the room and the theories surrounding it. Do you feel compelled by any? Are there any other theories you know of? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed watching this, please share and subscribe to our channel for more like this. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time.